In this tutorial video, we're going to cover how to use the second set of sensors. In this case, it's going to be the bumper sensors. And so to keep it simple, what we're going to do is basically we're going to make it so that if any one of the bumpers has been pressed, we're going to tell the robot to stop. So I'm going to change my velocity to 90 degrees so it doesn't go too fast. And the idea is we want it to drive forward, and we're going to keep driving forward until something happens. So in that case, we're going to use the repeat until command, and we're going to tell it to drive forward. Okay. Once that event is triggered, we'll tell it to maybe stop for a little bit, maybe about 1/3 of a second, and then we'll tell it to back up for 200 millimeters, and then maybe turn 90 degrees. Let's see what happens. Okay, so the idea is that we want to make it so we push the bumper, we break out of this command, this loop right here, and do all this over here. Now the question is that we have two bumper sensors. So we could make it so that if either the left bumper or the right bumper is pressed. So let's see what happens with that. And we want to keep making the robot do that forever. So I'm going to go ahead, grab a forever block, throw all that in there, and see what happens. Okay, so you can see we have ran into a bit of an issue. So the robot's going to keep going forward. As you can see here, it's a bit of at an angle. So what's going to happen is the right side of the robot is going to crash into the wall first, and then the left bumper, will be second. So because of that, it kind of clips into the wall. So sometimes it works, other times it ends up clipping through, so it may not be reliable. So there we go. So we ran into that issue again. If we change that to right bumper, it'll probably behave the same way. It's a little bit more reliable. But if we change it to where it turns left instead of right, we're going to run into that same issue that we had before. So it's working okay, okay. There we go. So we ran into that issue. So if the robot's turning right, the right bumper's pressed, that's okay. But if we're turning left, that only works okay if the left bumper is pressed. So what we need to do is we need to make a condition so that we make it so that if the left bumper or the right bumper is pressed, it'll tell it to stop. So what we could do is we could add a whole bunch of, repeat until command sequences. But instead, what we're going to do is make life simpler. So we're going to go to our logic, and then we're going to go to our operators. And we're going to introduce what is called a Boolean statement. So Boolean statement is either and or. What that means is that if this is true and this one is true, then the whole thing is true. But if one of them is not true, false, the other one is true, the whole statement is false. Okay, so both of them have to be true in order for the thing to be completely true. On the other hand, you have what is called or statement. So basically what that's saying is that if this one is true, the whole statement is true. If this one is true, the whole statement is true. So it doesn't matter which one of those. So one of them could be false, but as long as one of them is true, so if this is true or this one is true, the whole thing is true. Okay. So now if we throw that in there, say or instead of and, basically what that's saying, it doesn't matter which bumper was pressed, as long as one of the bumpers was pressed, it's going to tell the robot to stop and then back up. So let's go ahead and run the code and see how that behaves. Oh, maybe if I slow it down a little bit, see if that fixes it. So there we go. So here we can see the bumper, so you can see which one got pressed first or which one got pressed second. But in this case, both are being pressed at more or less the same time. So now if I change this, maybe let's do maybe 60 degrees, see what happens with the behavior. Okay, so you can see here now only one bumper is being pressed. And because that bumper is being pressed, that still works. So here the other bumper is being pressed. There we go. Okay. So basically it works the same way, but basically in this case we said that if the bumper was pressed, either one will tell the robot to stop, back up, and turn somewhere else.